Are we looking at the probably best stronghold in a decade? Are we looking at one of the best stronghold in the entire series? Or is this demo a warning signal not to buy it? This is Games Between Games, and today I want to talk about Stronghold 4's demo, which released yesterday, and I only got to play it today for roughly 2 hours with 2 missions, one economy mission and a military mission. Let's talk about what is good, what is bad, what they changed, and what the final verdict is. Stronghold 4's graphics look like what I imagined with Stronghold or Stronghold Crusader back in the day when I was a young kid. Unreal Engine 5 captures the charm of this unique castle sim series and improves its overall looks by a lot. Let's look at this moment where I admire the scenery of my castle. Workers following their duties. Buildings opening up to see what's happening inside. Animals roaming the map. The castle feels alive. Just like in previous titles, it's your job to keep the happiness up, manage resources, and the defense of your castle. Resources felt scarce and important. Of course, you can overproduce if you just build 20 bakeries. But getting wood or stone or setting up your first food production felt like a real task. Waiting for your woodcutter to bring more planks happened to me quite a few times. That is partially so because many buildings require lots of materials. Unlike previous installments, for example Stronghold 2, bakeries cost double the amount of wood. There were a few times where I had to decide if I want building A or building B, and if I can wait or want to wait a few more minutes for more wood. That's because woodcutters have to walk quite some distance, since the maps are a lot larger than in previous games, which brings us to the next improvement. Map size. In both demo missions, the maps felt massive and interesting to discover. Setting up your production actually requires some planning ahead. You want to reduce walk times. Woodcutters need more and more time the more wood they cut away nearby. But it didn't feel like a burden or a bad gameplay aspect. To me, it felt like a sweet spot of realism that made me replace some buildings in my second playthrough of the economy mission. I actually paid a lot more attention to productiveness this time. But if you just like building castles or the aesthetics of the game, there's actually new stuff for you too. In Stronghold 4, you can now place a variation of decorations to improve the overall looks of your castle. There were only a few limited choices in the demo, but I'm sure there's gonna be even more options in the full release. Building your castle with Wusel factor, to quote the devs, actually may be the key selling point of Stronghold 4. It just looks good and feels amazing to navigate. One building they changed is the Hunter's Lodge. In Stronghold 4, it's a supply of meat for the feast system, which means it's removed from the general food production and somewhat weakens your early game compared to other strongholds. But the hunting system is actually quite fun. You can choose what kind of animals the hunters are supposed to hunt. And depending on the meat they produce, you have different feasts, of which there are around 20 different ones this time. Those feasts get chosen depending on the foods you produce. But let's talk about some downsides. One of the first things I noticed is that troops just instantly spawn at your garrison. They don't leave their huts or leave the campfire like it was in previous titles like Stronghold 2. That's a minor change and doesn't affect gameplay a lot, but I always liked how troops just walk across the map freshly recruited to go to the garrison. It added a liveliness to your map and castle. Troop management itself felt sometimes a little clanky. Combat sometimes looked quite funny, with animation cancelling knights as if it was some kind of esports tournament with OP strats. But apart from that, units feel quite good to control. Knights feel slow and heavy, and archers feel light and easy to reposition. The probably most noticeable change about combat is that units collide with each other now. You actually can't stack troops on one spot anymore, which creates fun gameplay choices, build narrow ways for enemies to be trapped in. But the enemy AI actually struggled a bit to properly attack my castle in the military mission. Enemy troops just run to your wall and stand idle for a second, before they actually start attacking. Enemy catapults and rams sometimes just stood in front of the castle and didn't attack, or they walked up to the wall instead of shooting to tear it down. Let's hope that was somewhat intentional design to make the mission for the demo easier, because if the enemies can't use catapults properly in the full game, skirmish might turn out to be a very boring mode. One more small thing I want to mention is that even though most buildings look amazing and very detailed, Some buildings are not designed to place them at a different angle. Most farms and workshops are neatly designed to be placeable at all directions, and they fit the scenery very well. For example, I placed my wheat fields around the mills to make it look like the mills are inside of the wheat field. It worked quite well. But on the other hand, the bakeries look like wooden boxes from behind. The same thing is happening with some houses or production buildings. Placing them at any other angle than the forward one just doesn't look satisfying to the eye or scenery. But what's the final verdict? What can I say after playing the demo for roughly 2 hours? As a Stronghold fan for many years, I may be a bit biased. I will not deny that. But I had fun with the demo. I didn't encounter any game-breaking problems or bugs. The visuals and aesthetics alone are a big selling point for me. The economy felt balanced, warfare seemed detailed enough to keep me interested for future skirmishes and online play. The castle building itself feels as great as ever. I hope they will improve what is currently not that great, and if they manage to polish the game by the time of the release, I think we may be looking at one of the best strongholds in the series. It may never catch up to the Crusader nostalgia, but I doubt it even has to do that to earn its place as a well-made Stronghold. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you liked this review of the Stronghold demo. Consider subscribing and leave a comment on what games or demos I should play next. Thanks for watching.